Mary Helandera, Taylor Automotive Family Women in the Driver's Seat. Today we are speaking with Dr. Tracee Perryman, motivator, CEO of Center of Hope Family Services. Also happens to be a singer and author, and the list goes on. I cannot wait to go in and speak to this phenomenal woman. Dr. Tracee Perryman, thank you so much for being here today. It is truly a pleasure. Could you please tell us a bit about your history and the deciding factor that got you behind the wheel 27 years ago as the CEO of the Center of Hope Family Services?
So I would say that the journey is not one that I imagined. I was a founding member of Center of Hope Church, where my father was the founding pastor. In African American churches and Baptist churches, there was kind of a separation between social services or the understanding of social needs and religious activities, right, and worship. So I would say during the 60s, when my father grew up, you received Christian education and traditional education through your church. His grandfather was the pastor, and so he connected individuals with jobs, housing, food, all of these things. So that was kind of the orientation that my father grew up with. He and my mother went to neighborhood schools where teachers would show up at your events, and they were a part of churches as well, and they would help you do science projects. And the people in the community were really concerned about children growing to their full potential. Somewhere along the line, by the time I was grown, which was when the church started, there seemed to be a disconnect. And churches in our community, in Toledo, African American churches in particular, became more concerned about just worship only. And there wasn't a responsiveness to the needs of the congregation. So my father started the church. He wanted to bring that concept of holistic ministry back. So as an 18-year-old who just started college at the University of Michigan, I guess young people was my passion. And when I think about my family history, it was my passion for my father. It was my passion for my mother. My mother was an early childhood educator. Her father was a principal during Jim Crow. My father got his start as a musician through his grandfather's church. They had a passion for young people. So it's kind of one of these things that was ordered, I think, by divine order. And so I just kind of ran with it. I think I came up in a family where, it was a holistic approach to life and a holistic approach to growth. And we didn't live thinking about limits. So if you could do it, you had the capacity to do it, and you wanted to do it, you do it. You did it. So I worked with the children. I mentored children in the back room of our church. It was like a 10 by 12 room. We have Bible study. So, of course, the adults had their Bible study on Wednesday, and the children had Bible study in the back room. And the children said, listen, we're not passing our tests. We're struggling in school, and we need help with our homework. So we asked the pastor, could we provide homework help and educational support during Bible study? And he said, well, we have Sunday school on Sunday, so it's not like the children are missing Christian education. And he said, yes. And that's when we started building out educational programs. We took children to Cedar Point. We took them to college visits. We helped them put on teas, and we taught them how to cook, and we took them to the zoo and all these things. And then we started measuring our results. And we found that we're really good at what we did. And so then 2011, which was, oh my goodness, 14 years later, Toledo Public Schools asked us to partner. And then after that, Sylvania Public Schools asked us to partner. Washington Local Schools asked us to partner. And now Springfield Local. So that's how we kind of grew to this piece. Now, in terms of parents, our church grew a lot with adults because there were children who were flocking to this church. And of course, we're just like, well, where are you going? And why is it so important that you get to church on Sunday morning, you're just a child? And so with that, parents came and they had needs too. And so here it is, 2024. We have a holistic support system, and we now call it the Elevate Family Resource Center, where we're serving children, we're helping them come to grade level in reading and math, we're exposing them to the theater and to arts and to social and emotional development. We're also serving parents and helping them connect with needs, and then also providing financial literacy, parenting support, teaching them how to cook, teaching them how to manage their time. And so now here we are. But it was just, we went with the need and we leaned into what we do best, and that's being creative. And we leaned into our passion for education and our success in that area, and just saying, hey, we managed to navigate the education system. How can we take the things that we've learned and pass it on to future generations?
Yeah, well, incredibly impactful. And you are impactful personally as an author, a motivator, CEO, and musician. I've heard you, so blessed to heard you sing. It's just incredible. You have so many roles. How do you juggle it all? And what does a typical day look like for you?
So one thing that I learned not very long ago was to start to put in place boundaries professionally, right? So at Center of Hope Family Services, I mean, I consider it my life's work. Yeah. And so when you consider something your life's work, it's hard to turn it off. Yes. And so for many years, I worked for Center of Hope Family Services 7 days a week. I worked a minimum of 60 hours a week because I wanted to make sure that everything that we dreamed actually came to fruition. And so as we were able to put in place the supports to build employee capacity, and we were able to vet the right partners, the right accountants, the right evaluators, the right PR firms, the right legal firms, and be able to pay them, right? Yeah. We were able to delegate a lot of things so that I could start to finally work most weeks 40 hours. So when you think about it, in a 24-hour day, if I take 8 hours for rest, and I take 8 hours for my day job, that leaves 8 whole hours to pursue the other things.
Yes, well, most people are horizontal on the couch. You are pursuing other passions. That's amazing.
Now, that doesn't mean that I am not horizontal on the couch. And in my social media work, my favorite room, right, is my bedroom. Like there's an ottoman there that's lengthy.
And I have seen it. It is lovely.
Yeah, I can lay on that. I have multiple chairs in that room, and it is my sanctuary. While I'm horizontal on the couch, there is time where I decompress and think about nothing. And then after I do that, the ideas start to flow. And what I don't do is restrict those ideas. So whether I have to text them to myself, whether I use voice-activated applications, right, or my laptop to type, as ideas flow, I make sure that I document them so that I don't lose them. And then after so long, you start to see the pieces of the puzzle come together. And then it's time for a new idea to be birthed and to be implemented. So I allow myself to be creative and I don't restrict it. I'm also very intentional. And one of the things that I teach to parents is visioning. If you don't have a vision for your life, then it will be determined for you. And the only way that you can effectively negotiate for yourself is knowing exactly what you want up front. And so that said, I'm very intentional about how I use my time. And when I am working for Center of Hope, there's no time to play around. And writing things down, having a list, and not storing things in my head that don't belong there. So when things are accomplished, then I know they're done. I'm not worrying about them anymore. So it's very, as management, very similar. Certain things have to be taken care of. The finances have to be taken care of. Compliance must be taken care of. These children and families must be taken care of. So I give 8 hours to that hard every day. And then those other 8, if I need rest, then that's what I get. If I have creative ideas, then I document them. But then weekends, I have 48 hours.
Yes.
That's, when you think about it, that's a lot of time to tape, right? Yeah. That's a lot of time to come up with content ideas. And so I make sure out of those 48 hours, I give 6 to other work. So that gives me time for leisure and rest and other things.
Wonderful. What are a few of the most challenging as well as rewarding aspects of all that you do? I mean, if you want to focus on the Center for Hope, that's wonderful, but your other aspects as well. So what are some of your, I can't imagine you rising above, I'm sure you rise above every challenge, but what are they? What are you faced with?
So I think in terms of Center of Hope is making sure that we find the right people to carry the mission forward. And it's very tough. And it's a push and pull because, when you have a great idea, there is always this push to scale it before it's ready and to bring in people because they have a certain name or they have a certain visibility in the community, but they don't necessarily have like values. So one of the things that I take very seriously is being a gatekeeper for this organization and really cultivating relationships and really saying, as far as engagement in this nonprofit and Center of Hope, I'm looking for people who are willing to cultivate a relationship with us in order to engage, because the children and the families who meet, their lives depend on it. And it depends on people being here for the right reasons. It depends on people investing in their excellence and not just investing in their survival. So that, I think, from Center Hope standpoint, is probably the biggest challenge. Yeah. We talked about, again, really figuring out how to be intentional with boundaries and understanding and really kind of doing that self-reflection to assess when my engagement is no longer necessary. So one of the charts that I ran across was how we make decisions about how we use our time. If it's urgent and it's important, then I do it. If it's urgent but not important, then I delegate it. Okay. Right? If it's important but not urgent, then I schedule it. And if it's not urgent and not important, then I just don't deal with it at all. So I think using that matrix has been very helpful in helping me manage the time and manage the demands and understand when it's time for me to exit off the scene and to do something else. I think what's made it so rewarding is just the progress of the children and the families. This past year, we partnered with the school, and I would say 75% of the children that they've sent have had some sort of mental health issue, conduct, or behavioral disorder. And I am so proud to say that none of those children have had an episode or a problem elevate. And that reminds us, this is why we're here. Like the academics we have done well for so long it's still very important to talk about that almost half of our children left reading at grade level, performing math at grade level last year. But when we start to be able to dig into children that obviously have been served by many systems, whose parents often have concern about how they'll be treated and how they'll be handled given their history, and they come in and they adjust just like that. I said, that's why. I'm like, so we're going to make a call to that school. Do you have other children who are exhibiting similar issues, because they're finding a safe haven here and they are flourishing? So send us more.
Oh, that's amazing. You are known for your motivational moments on social media. I know I turn to you quite a bit, but who do you turn to, or what do you turn to inspire you?
So that's a good question. And I think that people always assume that it's some great grand figure that guides my thinking. Now, of course, I was very well reared, and my parents are still very, very influential in my life to this day, right? But I just literally sit and watch people and pay attention to what I see. And I learn so much from so many people. I learn so much. Sometimes when I come up with a motivational quote, it's something I saw in our children or something I saw in our parents. And I like to say, is this so true, that I learn way more from our children and our families than they learn from me. And that is the truth. Now, that's not to say that I don't have mentors in government. I have mentors in education. I have mentors all over this nation that I bounce ideas off of and whose brains that I pick, and they know who they are. But I just want to take this moment to really uplift the everyday people who are just going through life, handling their days, handling their careers, trying to raise their children, and really uplifting how they cope, how they move through life, how they solve problems, and bringing that to a platform where other people can learn.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you have countless trailblazing accomplishments, and I can't even imagine you fitting anything else on your very full plate. But do you have any desires in 2025? New thoughts or ideas in the works? I just sitting here with you, I think a life coach 101 might be good. I'd sign me up. But anything brewing in 2025?
So people don't realize enough that with those extra 8 hours I have a day, that's where I do coaching, consulting, keynote speaking. Those are things that I love to do because I understand I love Center of Hope Family Services. I will always be here if I'm able. But this community needs more than Tracee Perryman, and this community needs more than Center of Hope. So that's my way of scaling up the work, is by empowering other women and men to be able to carry out the things that I'm doing. So of course, more speaking, more consulting, but I am working on my next book for women.
Wonderful, and we'll be the first to get it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for being with us and being such an impactful person in our community. We truly appreciate all that you do.
Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Perryman, for all you do to impact our community. Let's hit the road and see who's next in the driver's seat.